Okay, you're good to go ahead.
All right, so we'll call to order the Fort Myers Beach Audit Committee meeting. It's 9:05, and our first order of business is a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we've got a quorum. Brian's here, Brian Thomas and Dick Cody. I think John Coggan resigned, I'm not sure. Yeah, he did resign formally, so we're down to a membership of 4, looking for a 5th member to be appointed to the committee.
Recording in progress.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
It was saying recording in progress.
Oh,
The machine is talking to you.
oh, I see, yeah. That's like that thing that wakes me up in the morning. It tells me what the temperature is and
Alexa?
what the sky's like.
It's a spouse at my place.
Approval of minutes, does anybody have any suggestions on the minutes or any corrections? I see one, I think, on page 2 in the audit engagement status. Chair Steele stated that no one from the auditors attended the audit committee meeting to present. I think it probably should say present the audit instead of present the budget. So change budget and into audit on that, in that sentence. Any other notices? All right, with that, we need a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved, Cody.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Minutes are approved as amended. Public comment? Don't see any public here. Items for discussion. Preliminary audit results. Well, anybody have any? What I can say is, boy, the finances of the town really look like they're in terrific shape. They've improved significantly over last year, and just looks like everything is hunky-dory. I don't see any notes by the auditors, so I'm sure they haven't finished their notes yet, and haven't seen a draft of the management letter or anything, but it all looks really good to me.
Mr. Lombard, if I may.
Yes.
This is Sherry Russ, Budget Manager. I did want to let you know that Mr. Stansberry is online with us
Good.
via Zoom.
Oh, good deal. That's great. Well, good to see you.
Morning.
Thanks for,
Hi.
yeah, thanks for showing up. I have a couple of just minor questions, but they're on the finances, not on the, I noticed in the table on page 15, where we have the revenues and expenditures listed. Charges for services were modestly higher than projected, as were the projections for intergovernmental revenues. I'm wondering what constitutes, or what was the cause, I guess, is a better question, of the significant jump in intergovernmental revenues
Right.
above what was projected anyhow.
One of the big ones was a grant from Lee County that we got for $820,000
Yes.
for the landscaping of Estero Boulevard. It wasn't a grant, it was the money that they provided to us to do the landscaping in perpetuity.
And where did that money come from, Sherry?
Lee County.
I know, but where did they get the money, do you know?
I'm not sure.
I wonder if it was one of those bills they passed in Congress.
Or the general fund, could have been either one.
Yeah. And how about the charges for services? Why is that up? It's not up a lot, just a moderate increase.
I would have to look into that more to see exactly what that $400,000 increase is.
It's not a significant increase, Sherry, so I wouldn't waste your time with that question. Well, that pretty much exhausts what my analysis, as I say. I just think,
I had the same questions that you had, Ed, on the variances. But other than that, I was just anxious to see the management report and
Yeah,
and their notes,
right.
which didn't come with this, and they should be ready, shouldn't they?
We're working on that for the final draft.
Were there any significant issues on the management report?
No,
No?
nothing.
well, the auditor's here, so maybe,
I know, I'm sort of asking
wanna-
him.
does he want to comment on that?
Can you hear us?
Morning, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, one thing I'll comment on your question for charges for services. There was a large increase in your parking facilities revenue this year. I think a big component of that is related to the COVID effect from last year to this year. And I think you also might have had a small rate increase for your parking there on the island. But as far as the audit goes, and as far as what we're going to more likely than not have in our Yellow Book report, as far as findings go this year, we did have a couple of findings last year relating to capital assets, debt, as well as accounts payable. I think we're going to probably have those as repeated again this year, and most likely an additional one regarding accounts receivable. And that's really been the delay in finishing up the audit, is trying to go through and correct a lot of entries that were misposted and whatnot. I believe we finally got that nailed down. I believe the numbers that you have in front of you, the draft numbers that you have in front of you, are pretty much finally good to go. But at the end of the day, the town has an accounting system that's pretty particular and it's a little bit harder to deal with, I think, for staff. And of course, you all had a lot of change this year in staffing. And so I think that while we were heading in the right direction at the end of last year and making some corrections and making some adjustments, by having a lot of change in staff, that was just not able to be fully implemented and fully corrected. But I do think that the folks that you all have there now, they're very knowledgeable and hardworking and determined to make the proper corrections and make the right adjustments, so that going forward, you're not going to be seeing this, hopefully, fingers crossed, going forward. But I do believe we are going to have some repeat findings, again, like I mentioned, similar to what we had last year.
While you're talking about that, can you just give us a rough idea of what those findings are? What were the issues?
Certainly. So, when we as part of the overall audit, we do a lot of planning and a lot of upfront discussions with the town management to determine when you all are ready for us to come in and do the audit. From that point on, if there's something that you all are still working on, if there's something that you all, tell us up front that, hey, we're still working on capital assets, don't look at that just yet. We'll be hands off until you all tell us that you're good to go with that. And this year we were told to come on in. It was that you all were ready, and we had a tremendous amount of journal entries to make to clean up accounts payable, to clean up accounts receivable, to clean up and properly record capital asset activity. That is something that we initiated, that we had to kind of work through and figure out. And as a result, without us making those adjustments, the information that was previously provided would not have been properly stated. And as a result, the controls really were not in place to ensure that the information that you all are being given on a monthly basis was accurate. And so that's why the findings exist. And again, that was very similar to what the case was at the end of last year or during last year's audit.
Did you say the controls were not in place?
Now, don't get that confused with there not any controls. It's just when end of quarter reporting or end of month reporting or end of year reporting is done, there needs to be policies and procedures in place to make sure that all of the balance sheet accounts are properly adjusted, that they're all properly reconciled, that they all agree to supporting general ledger details. And a lot of times there's some adjustments that need to be made. There's some corrections that need to be made. And a lot of that just was not done prior to our beginning of this year's audit. And so as part of our audit, we made those corrections. We made those adjustments, obviously working with town management and town finance to come up with what those correct balances should be. But that does not mean that there weren't controls in place to properly, have disbursements and receipts and that kind of thing. Those are there, those are in place. It's just in addition to properly recording cash coming in and cash going out, you've got to make sure that the balances are proper, that you've got a proper cutoff, that you've properly recorded accounts receivable, that you've got properly recognized revenues in accordance with the modified basis of accounting for governmental funds, those types of things.
Are there coding issues also with things posted to the incorrect accounts?
Yes, and I think that's a system oriented issue, in that for whatever reason there are multiple accounts in the same fund that really shouldn't be there. There should really only be one, let's say, pooled cash account. Yeah. But for whatever reason, the system has multiple pooled cash accounts, and so it makes it difficult to do some reconciliations when you've got 5 GL accounts that are really representing one bank account, or you've got 3 or 4 accounts receivable accounts that really represent one receivable. Same thing when it comes to prepaids or accounts payable. And so I believe that the town is interested in is potentially looking at going down the road of attaining a new GL accounting system. And I would agree that that's probably the right avenue to do. That some of the newer, more advanced systems, they don't have those types of issues. They wouldn't have these types of reconciliation problems that you all are currently having.
We just put that system in a couple of years ago, didn't we?
Well, yeah, I was just thinking, the previous finance director, once removed, was an acting finance director, but he was gung-ho about his new accounting system and really pushed it through, as a matter of fact, because I remember I was always a little concerned he might be pushing it too hard and too fast. Maybe that was the case, but it sounds more like it's a systems issue than a volume issue. And I know the staff works diligently, but are we understaffed, by the way?
No, we're not understaffed right now.
You're not understaffed?
No.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry to hear about this accounting system problem, because I know a lot of effort was expended on it, and as were the funds, and there was a lot of promise behind it. But
I think part of the reason was part of the problem was the way that it was initially set up. And and remember, we've only been in charge here since September when Cheryl left. We've had a lot of cleanup to do, to go back and figure out why were there all these different object codes that could mean all the same thing. There's a lot of cleanup to do.
well, what are we gonna? Is there a way to solve that problem? Can Can we adjust the system so that it's a little less complex, a little more straightforward?
We need a new system. This system was not designed for governmental, it was designed for not-for-profit. So they made it fit somewhat.
So you say we need another system?
Yeah, we do.
Are we looking for one?
Yes.
Yes.
Good,
Actually, Wade suggested one as well.
good.
That was my next question. What
Yes.
he had suggested.
Here we go again.
Like, welcome, I can't wait.
Well, you got the right attitude. Any other questions about the audit or the draft audit to this point? I did have one more question, minor question. On the stormwater fund, I see cash paid to suppliers for stormwater is a little over $500,000. Who are our stormwater suppliers? I know who our water fund suppliers are, but I'm wondering who our stormwater fund suppliers are.
What page are you looking at?
I'm on page 21. The statement of cash flows on both the water fund and the stormwater fund. And up in the cash flows, cash paid to suppliers, $556,979.
Well, water and stormwater, a lot of the costs are split between the two, and primarily it's construction. So it could be the type of work that's being done, it could be the phase of the work that's being done, so that would drive the cost.
Well,
Are you, I'm
That,
sorry.
that's kind of a large catch-all, if you will. There were quite a bit of repair and maintenance expenses done during the year. Almost 220,000 of R&M that would obviously be paid to an outside vendor. There are also just general operating costs, office supplies, insurance, contractual services, license fees, that kind of thing.
Well, that would explain operating costs of operating the stormwater facility. Because there is a large amount for acquisition and construction capital assets, almost $2.9 million. Anyhow, I think that satisfies my question anyhow. So I guess we can't really take a formal position on this draft because it's still in draft and we don't have all the details of the findings and so forth. But if there's no other questions, can we just move on?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Next item is unless somebody else has something to say about the audit. So the next item is scope of work for the audit bid. And I presume that's what this is, Sherry, that you passed out?
That was the last one that you approved.
So I'm not sure what we can say constructively about this subject. You just want to put it on the table, and are we going to see another one? Do we have another one coming? Or is this,
I'm not sure. I will find out. We need to talk about, in future meetings, I'm just bringing this up at this meeting just so it can be in your mind that the bid is coming up again. We're at the 5-year mark. And so if there was anything that you, as a committee, had thought about changing, so that's why this last one was provided to you, just to look over.
you say the bid is coming up. Does that mean the request for
Ye-
proposal
yes,
is coming up? or-
yes.
And when does that due out?
I believe in June.
In June?
'Cause we have to get it in front of council before their last meeting,
Uh-huh.
which is usually the beginning of June.
Well, we'll have time for another meeting before then in case we do have some
Yes.
input. But we should use this as the template. We should, Okay, that makes sense to me. Anything else on the audit bid? Members' items and reports, any member items?
Just to go back to the audit, is there a timeline you see for completion? so we can plan on another meeting to get together again to look at that final audit? Anybody?
I'm not sure what Wade's timeline or timeframe is.
Wade?
Sure, sorry. I wasn't sure if that was being directed to me or someone else. So we're very close, to being able to finalize this year's, both file and the statement. So I'm hoping, within the next 2 weeks, we're close to being able to finalize this year's report.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, the last meeting for the town council is June 21st, so there is a little more time.
Yeah, well, then it sounds to me, if you're talking about a couple of weeks, Wade, we could have that in time for a May meeting or a June meeting, since the council meeting isn't until late June. So whatever works for the staff and the auditor will work for us, I'm sure. Either the May or June meeting would be a good time for us to review the audit finally and take whatever stand or make whatever suggestions we want to make to the council at that point. Is that all right?
That sounds fine with me, but I certainly, I want to get this wrapped up as soon as possible, and get it out to you guys. So I would hope that we could absolutely be done by your May meeting and not have to wait till
Good.
June.
Good. That's fine. That sounds like,
Better.
that sounds like a good idea.
Right?
So we'll look forward to a May meeting and having the audit in hand by then. Any other matters to discuss before we move to adjourn? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Cody.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we stand adjourned.